If you have $2 million invested, there is a strange moment when the number stops being just a number. It becomes a label. The Federal Reserve's latest survey of consumer finances puts the 90th percentile of U.S. household net worth at about $1.94 million, while median household net worth was about $193,000 in 2022. In other words, a household around $2 million sits near the top 10% of the wealth distribution. And that's where something subtle can happen. You may still think of yourself as a retired teacher, a former manager, a firefighter, a nurse, or somebody who simply saved consistently for 30 years. Other people may start thinking of you differently, not because they calculated your withdrawal rate, not because they reviewed your tax return, because they heard one number, and once someone knows the number, every future financial conversation can be framed around it. That's the part most retirement advice doesn't really prepare you for, because the question isn't simply, should I tell my family how much I have? The better question is, who actually needs to know? And what happens to everyone else when they do? Start with the reason $2 million feels different. Schwab's 2025 Modern Wealth Survey found that Americans said they needed about $839,000 to feel financially comfortable, while the amount they associated with being wealthy was about $2.5 million. So $2 million sits in a psychologically interesting place. It's far beyond what most Americans consider comfortable, but it's still below the survey's average definition of wealthy. That gap matters because people don't make financial decisions using spreadsheets all the time. They use categories. Retired with savings is one category. Wealthy is another. And those categories carry different assumptions. A person who thinks you have $300,000 might ask whether you can help with 2 months of rent. A person who thinks you have $2 million may ask a very different question. They already know you can help. Now the question becomes whether you will. That is a completely different conversation. And family lending data shows why this matters. One LendingTree study found that people who had lent money to friends or family had, on average, lent about $5,022 over their adult lives and reported getting back about $2,857, roughly 57 cents for every dollar. Other research has found that family loans can damage relationships. One survey reported that about 24% of lenders said the loan negatively affected the relationship, including 3% who said the relationship ended. That doesn't mean your family is irresponsible. It means money changes relationships when expectations become unclear. And that's why disclosure is not just about privacy, it's about expectations. Now, here's the objection you may already have. What if I'm already helping my kids? What difference does telling them my balance make? That's a fair objection. American parents already provide substantial financial support to adult children. Savings.com's 2025 survey found that half of parents with adult children provide regular financial assistance, with supporting parents giving an average of $1,474 per month per adult child. The survey also found that working parents supporting grown children were contributing more than twice as much each month to those children as to their own retirement accounts. So the money may already be flowing. The question is, what happens when the recipient knows exactly how much you have? Because there is a difference between my parents are helping me and my parents have $2 million. The first statement describes support. The second creates a perceived capacity. And perceived capacity can become an expectation. That's why one of the most useful boundaries you can create is separating help from access. You can decide to help someone without giving them your balance sheet. You can pay a medical bill. You can contribute toward a down payment. You can help with education. You can give a specific gift. None of those decisions requires another person to know your total portfolio. That's a much cleaner financial boundary. There's another reason this matters, and it has nothing to do with someone asking you for money. Inheritance expectations can change behavior before an inheritance ever arrives. A 2026 Key Wealth poll of more than 2,300 Americans who expected to receive an inheritance found that 64% said the anticipated inheritance was already influencing their financial decisions. More than 1/3 said they had saved or invested at least $100,000 less because they expected the inheritance. 40% said they were saving less for retirement, while 36% said they were taking more investment risk. And here's the important part. Only about 34% said their expectation came from an actual family conversation involving specific amounts, timing, or conditions. That means people can build financial plans around money that was never formally promised. A vague comment can become a future assumption. We'll take care of you. You won't have to worry. There's plenty set aside. Those sound generous, but they can become numbers inside someone else's head. And once that happens, they may save less, spend more, or take more investment risk because they believe a safety net is coming. The strange part is that you may never see the consequence. Nobody calls you, nobody asks for money. You simply discover years later that your child made a different financial plan because of something you casually said at dinner. That's why vague financial reassurance can sometimes be more dangerous than a clear, limited commitment. So should you tell your children nothing? Not necessarily. The evidence doesn't support a universal rule that wealthy families should hide everything. In fact, an older U.S. trust survey of 457 people with at least $3 million in investable assets found that 52% had not fully disclosed their wealth to their children, while 15% had disclosed nothing about the family wealth. The reasons included concerns about motivation, poor decisions, squandering money, and other people taking advantage of their children. But that survey is from 2011, so it should be treated as historical evidence, not a current snapshot of wealthy American families. The useful lesson isn't, never tell your kids. It's this. Disclosure should be deliberate. Your spouse or partner may need the complete picture because you're sharing the same retirement plan. The person responsible for administering your estate needs the relevant information and documents. Your adult children may need to know what responsibilities they will have, what you've planned for, and what they should expect regarding your estate. But none of that automatically requires you to announce the exact size of your investment portfolio at Thanksgiving. There's a big difference between telling someone your education is covered and I have $2.3 million. The first communicates a plan, the second gives them a balance. Plans can have boundaries. Balances can become expectations. So what do you actually say when someone asks? You don't need a complicated excuse. You don't need to pretend you're broke. And you don't need to become defensive. You can simply say, we planned carefully for retirement, and the money is committed to that plan. That's it. It's true. Your portfolio isn't a pile of money waiting for somebody to spend. It's funding your housing, healthcare, taxes, travel, emergencies, and potentially decades of future living expenses. $2 million sounds enormous when you see it as a balance. It looks very different when you see it as a 30-year retirement obligation. And if someone keeps pushing, you don't have to provide a better explanation. You can repeat the boundary and change the subject. The same principle applies to your lifestyle. You don't need to drive a 15-year-old car and pretend you have nothing. You don't need to hide every nice purchase. What matters more is avoiding sudden financial signals that create a story people can fill in for themselves. And if you genuinely want to help someone, decide the rules before the request arrives. That's one of the cleanest ways to protect both the money and the relationship. Suppose your adult child comes to you with a real problem, a medical bill, a housing emergency, a major life transition. You want to help. The worst time to decide your financial boundary is in the middle of an emotional conversation. Instead, decide in advance what you're willing to give. Maybe it's a fixed annual amount. Maybe it's help with specific emergencies. Maybe it's education. Maybe it's a one-time gift. The important part is that the amount is determined by your plan, not by the emotional pressure of the moment. And if you're giving money, understand what it is. A gift is a gift. A loan is a loan. Don't call something a loan because you're uncomfortable admitting that you don't expect to be repaid. Family lending research shows why that distinction matters. If you lend money, the financial transaction can become a relationship transaction too. There is also one place where the full number absolutely belongs: your financial and estate plan. The people who need to execute that plan should have the information necessary to do it. and your family should understand the responsibilities that affect them. Privacy isn't about keeping your loved ones in the dark forever. It's about making sure information reaches the people who need it, for the reasons they need it, at the right time. There's another modern reason to take that seriously. The FTC says consumers reported roughly $16 billion in fraud losses in 2025, the highest amount on record. Older adults are among the groups facing serious financial fraud risks. The lesson isn't that every relative is a threat. It's much simpler. The more widely valuable financial information travels, the less control you have over where it eventually ends up. You cannot unsay a number. You can always decide to share more later. You cannot reverse disclosure. And that's the real power of keeping a financial boundary. Suppose your adult child comes to you with a real problem, a medical bill, a housing emergency, a major life transition. You want to help. The worst time to decide your financial boundary is in the middle of an emotional conversation. Instead, decide in advance what you're willing to give. Maybe it's a fixed annual amount. Maybe it's help with specific emergencies. Maybe it's education. Maybe it's a one-time gift. The important part is that the amount is determined by your plan, not by the emotional pressure of the moment. And if you're giving money, understand what it is. A gift is a gift. A loan is a loan. Don't call something a loan because you're uncomfortable admitting that you don't expect to be repaid. Family lending research shows why that distinction matters. If you lend money, the financial transaction can become a relationship transaction too. There is also one place where the full number absolutely belongs: your financial and estate plan. The people who need to execute that plan should have the information necessary to do it, and your family should understand the responsibilities that affect them. Privacy isn't about keeping your loved ones in the dark forever. It's about making sure information reaches the people who need it, for the reasons they need it, at the right time. There's another modern reason to take that seriously. The FTC says consumers reported roughly $16 billion in fraud losses in 2025, the highest amount on record. Older adults are among the groups facing serious financial fraud risks. The lesson isn't that every relative is a threat. It's much simpler. The more widely valuable financial information travels, the less control you have over where it eventually ends up. You cannot unsay a number. You can always decide to share more later. You cannot reverse disclosure. And that's the real power of keeping a financial boundary.